Hey, welcome back to MUFC versus everybody. As always, I'm your host, Sean. Welcome back to the channel. Just want to thank you guys again for all the views, the likes, the comments. Recently, I know we had a guy comment on my Livonia City FC jersey in the last video, and big up the Wheats as always. So if you're in the Southeast Michigan area, starting next month, the Midwest Premier League kicks off. So go check out Livonia City Football Club. Check them out online. Follow them on Twitter. They're a good little semi-pro club, and I'll be looking forward to cheering them on again this season. Today, I wanted to drop another video before the night got a little too away from me. There's been a lot of talk going on, a lot of United talk as always. It's nothing new, right? But just a lot of this, a lot of social media this, a lot of Samuel Luckhurst this, a lot of everybody this, and amidst all of it, I'm sensing a bit of a pattern, and I wanted to touch upon that today. So, it's another day, it's another circus at Manchester United Football Club. Ten Hag has been the subject of more off-field criticism, fueled by social media backlash. Surprise, surprise. Before we dive into the latest and greatest when it comes to United, though, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and don't forget to go check us out at MUFC vs. Everybody on Twitter or X, if you want to call it that. It's still weird to call it X, right? It just sounds weird. I'm not even a big social media person. I didn't even really have a Twitter account until like January or so, and it was honestly just for this, basically, just to get some of my writing out there, to get some of my work with StreadyNews.com out there, and just to kind of more of a professional, semi-personal thing. But it's grown a little bit, got a few followers now, so I might as well just kind of ease it on. So don't forget to go check us out. So the last few days have obviously been riddled with fresh media spin and negativity, accusing Ten Hag of creating problems with his players. Obviously, we've seen him accused of throwing players under the bus, and we've seen reports of rifts between him and his signings, in training or off, ahead of matches. This isn't the first time we've seen Ten Hag hit with these accusations, and some of them have even seen him being labeled as a bully across social media and in the print media, which is just a bit childish. But the question stands, is Ten Hag a bully? Or is he finally implementing a higher standard for the players and they just don't like it? These are questions I want to explore today. So before we look at the events of this weekend, which we already spoke a little bit about in one of the other videos, let's take a look at the events that have come up throughout Ten Hag's United tenure so far that have called into question his disciplinary methods, I guess. Starting with Cristiano Ronaldo. So we touched upon it a little bit in one of my earlier videos, but if you remember when Ten Hag arrived that summer, 2022, Ronaldo basically missed the entire preseason due to his family issues. No one's pointing any fingers at Ronaldo. It's just the facts, right? He was gone. But we know Ten Hag is a stickler for fitness, and any manager does need players to take part in his preseason. It's very important, as Ten Hag says, learn the routines, get to know the players, get to know teammates, get to know the system. Fitness, obviously, all of it. It's important, even for a guy like Cristiano Ronaldo. As a result of Cristiano Ronaldo missing preseason, Ten Hag didn't think his fitness levels were where they needed to be, especially for a 37-year-old. Come on. And he only started 4 games by the time October 2022 rolled around. And obviously, we could see a little petulance, a little frustration from Ronaldo in the dugout. And he wasn't a fan of being treated basically the same as the rest of the squad. And he even refused to come on as the late sub against Spurs in October that season. Remember, there was like 3 minutes left, and he said, "No, I'm done. I'm out of here." Backing Ten Hag in that moment, the club dropped Ronaldo for the following match against Chelsea. And then the following month, the international break, Ronaldo gave that interview with Piers Morgan, and the rest is history as far as that goes. Brings us to Alejandro Garnacho. Not the recent one. Remember, Garnacho had another issue a long time ago. So Garnacho's first preseason under Ten Hag did not leave a very good first impression for his new manager. If you remember, he was dropped during that first tour for reportedly turning up late to team meetings. He turned up late twice, I believe. And even following that, it came out a little later on that Bruno Fernandes, the club captain at the time, he told BT Sport after a Europa League match, I think it was against Sociedad, So obviously a little later after the fact, that Garnacho during preseason didn't have the best attitude, and that's why he wasn't getting his chances at the start of last season. Bruno added that Garnacho wasn't doing enough in training, but that he had changed and things had improved, and so everybody was better now. Basically the same thing Ten Hag has said about another player, not doing enough in training. So he's treating everybody the same. Speaking of another player, Jadon Sancho. Following United's loss against Arsenal early this season, Ten Hag was asked a direct question in the post-match presser about Sancho's absence from the matchday squad. As anyone would do in that situation when you're asked a direct question, Ten Hag responded by stating that he and his coaching staff just didn't think Sancho trained well enough, and Sancho basically removed himself from selection as a result. He said he wasn't training at the levels that we need. Instead of taking that as maybe I could be doing more. What am I doing? What are they not seeing? If Ten Hag and his whole staff are thinking the same things, maybe I need to look at myself in the mirror. Instead of doing any of that, or even instead of just being frustrated, not disagreeing, and then just, keeping your mouth shut, Sancho decided to take to social media after the comments came out, and then he accused Ten Hag of lying, claiming he was being made a scapegoat for the loss. And Sancho fans quickly turned on Ten Hag, accused him of throwing the player under the bus, and this is really where that bully label got started. People forget, though, that Sancho has had basically the same issues at every club he's been at. There's a reason that he was so easily released from City. He had some issues with the England squad and Gareth Southgate, and he basically copy-pasted this whole scapegoat comment from a very same situation when he was at Borussia Dortmund before he came to United. So there's a pattern of this behavior, and there's pattern of just not taking responsibility, not showing humility, of deflecting and just shifting blame when maybe the attitude of Sancho is the problem. Sancho refused to apologize for the social media outburst and was subsequently banished from the first team and all the training grounds and all first team related everything. Before he finally went back to Dortmund on loan this January. My opinion, it was a bit cowardly, immature, insecure, and a bit ungrateful from Sancho the way he reacted, considering Ten Hag did a lot to help him out, especially when he was struggling. When it was clear Sancho was dealing with some personal issues. Ten Hag gave him time away from the pressure and from the spotlight, and even sent him off to the Netherlands alone just to train and kind of clear his head a little bit and get his mind right and work out some of the stuff away from all that. Ten Hag also worked with Sancho to find a place in the starting lineup for him. Trying to get him into the side, get him minutes. He worked him as a number 10, he worked him as an 8 even, and he was trying. You could see he was trying. If you remember, Sir Alex Ferguson said he would look at a player's personality before their ability. In this case, a simple apology is all it would have taken to fix the situation. Whether you think it's right or wrong, whether you agree or not, a simple apology. It's amazing how those two little words, "I'm sorry," can be the most difficult thing in the world to say. It's a life lesson in there for people, a teaching moment. Marcus Rashford. Been in the crosshairs a few times since Ten Hag has arrived. He was late to a team meeting last winter, and he apologized, stating he overslept, right? Regardless, setting the standards universal, no favorites, everyone's got the same expectations and the same consequences. Ten Hag benched him for the game against Wolves after that. Fast forward to this winter, he's out partying in Belfast, right? Just a few months ago, he was pictured partying for 2 nights in Belfast, 2 nights in a row, and then he called in sick for training after he returned to Manchester the next day. This reportedly angered his teammates and then obviously angered Ten Hag. I think Rashford also offered to play in the next match, which was our FA Cup tie against Newport County. Ten Hag refused, declined, said no, it's not happening, and instead he made Rashford train alone at Carrington, and he was out of that matchday squad altogether. Same punishment, same consequences for everybody, no matter if you're Ronaldo, Garnacho, Rashford, Sancho. Same. Are we seeing the pattern here? Fast forward now to Garnacho recently. So I've already spoken about this a little, but this brings us back to the Bournemouth result. Following our draw, right? Ten Hag was asked in the post-match presser, again, asked a direct question, not about the match, like there was always just about, again, trying to start crap, about taking Garnacho off at halftime. So again, responding to the question like any normal person would do, Ten Hag stated, Garnacho wasn't in training during the week. We found out later he was not feeling great. He was ill, and he was lacking energy, which left us exposed in our defense, especially on our right side. You saw that they were pretty much just dominating, and Garnacho was having a little struggle keeping pace with it. Pretty straightforward response, right? Like I said the other day, that does not sound like a manager throwing anyone under the bus to me. Cue Mark Goldbridge, who went on a little social media mini rant and accused Ten Hag of blaming Garnacho, throwing him under the bus, and holding him up as the problem for the result, basically. So online opinions are fine, even if you're a massive social media content creator. Like, that's fine. Online, everyone's got an opinion. You're entitled to it, right? But the real issue here is that apparently Garnacho liked the tweets. Drama, 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 right? This sounds like an issue between teenagers, not professional athletes and professional football managers. Social media, man, it causes so many problems. Let me tell you, I don't want to get into it, but social media has to, in my opinion, one of the worst things I've seen in society. And I say that as I'm on social media, so it is what it is. In any case, Ten Hag has reportedly spoken to Garnacho, who has since unliked the tweets, right? And the club kind of sound like they're taking that as like an apology. It's unclear whether further action will be taken, though. It's unclear what's happened behind closed doors. I think people hear that part, right? It's unclear what's going to happen next, and they point to the Sancho situation, and they call Ten Hag a hypocrite. But again, it's about the player's response, not the action itself. Right? It's like, what did we say the other day? If you have two children and they break something, and one of them is apologetic and the other one tries to lie about it, who's going to probably get punished a little bit more? Probably the liar. If Garnacho apologizes, holds his hands up, and it's likely the consequences won't be as severe as like Jadon Sancho's, for instance. But we'll see what happens. I will say, though, on a side note, as far as this whole drama is concerned on social media, that content creators in general could probably stand to show a little bit more awareness of the influence they have when it comes to situations like this. If you remember, the United Stand was also at the center of a bit of drama involving Marcus Rashford not too long ago. Marcus Rashford, I mean, he responded to a post from the United Stand on Twitter, I believe, and I don't remember what the post was, but his comment was to stop, telling the channel to stop spreading lies, basically. So social media, content creators, especially United channels, a lot of times when this kind of thing happens, they'll plead innocence, claiming, they're just fans, or they're speaking for the fans, or they're just sharing their opinions, or simply reporting the news, right? That's my favorite line. We're just reporting the news, and it's like, when you have millions and millions of followers, your opinions and your views and your statements and your tweets become millions and millions of times louder, right? So whether content creators want to admit it or not, they hold a powerful position, and it can be very easy to abuse that power, whether it's intentional or not, whether you're conscious or aware of it or not. It can be very easy to do that. So again, just a thought. So Ten Hag stated on more than one occasion that everyone has to meet the standards and follow the rules. It's, like I said, universal. Sounds pretty simple, right? Sounds fair, right? No favoritism, no nothing. Like children, though, these players have tested the boundaries now and then. It happens at every club, all over the place. And then the players then have a choice to make when it comes to accepting responsibility and accepting the consequences for their actions. I think a lot of people hear that word consequences and they think punishment. Consequences, think of it like cause and effect. You do something, there are consequences. It's just the way it is. Sometimes those consequences are punishment, sometimes they're not. It's just the way it is, You want to go see a movie and go hang out with your friends doing something else. Two things occur at the same time. You make a choice. The consequence of that choice is you're going to miss out on something. You're not being punished. It's the consequence. You can't be in two places at once. It's the way it works. I would argue that a bit of short-term discipline that yields long-term changes in player attitudes, it's needed and it's a good thing. It's never a bad thing, especially in the modern game when, we've seen player power, agent power, have a bit more of the control in a lot of these situations. We saw with Mourinho, he was basically sacked instead of, the club disciplining and coming down on some of the players at the time. And we've seen it in a couple different situations at different clubs all throughout Europe. People forget too that Mourinho also ran into problems with player attitudes. Oli also referenced the mentality issue in the squad. He boldly stated that some of the players had stopped caring at a certain point, and that their attitude also meant that some of those players would not be around to share in success with the club. He said, I'm going to be successful, not all these players will be. And then, remember in a damning statement that ultimately contributed to him getting sacked, interim manager Ralph Rangnick flat out said the club needs open heart surgery and needed as many as 10 new players to fix a lot of the problems that are really at the foundation of the club and the culture. Also, you're starting to see a little bit of a pattern here, right? A few months ago, former United midfielder Nemanja Matic, big up Nemanja Matic, such an underrated baller, in my opinion. He gave an interview with an Austrian outlet and basically exposed the poor mentality in the United dressing room. He said, players were late to training and team meetings almost every day. He said, never happened to Chelsea, it happened almost every day at United. He called out Sancho and Paul Pogba by name in this interview and said that the tardiness got so prevalent, and the senior players like Matic got, and like I think it was like Juan Mata maybe too, got so angry and frustrated that they formed in themselves an internal disciplinary committee to address all this, with Matic basically being in charge of it. He had a little notebook and he kept track of players who arrived late, and he issued fines as a result, and that's what you want to see from your senior players. That's the leadership and that's the mentality that we see. So problem is, it got so bad, guys, that one season he had collected almost 75,000 pounds in fines from players who were constantly turning up late. But it's Ten Hag's fault, right? Ten Hag's a bully. Now, before you say, I know you're probably thinking, before you say, Sean's just backing Ten Hag, he's a Ten Hag fan. He always has been. He's said it before. He's just backing, like, he's ignoring all, like, hold your horses, right? Ten Hag he also has some room to do better in some of these situations as well. Whether it's a personality thing with him or maybe just a naivete when it comes to some of this kind of stuff, because it's very different being in the Eredivisie versus facing the media and dealing with the media here. It's 100 times worse in the Premier League, but it's also 100 times worse than that when you're a United manager. I think Ten Hag could stand to learn to think about some of the words he chooses in these situations. Maybe he needs more media training or something. I don't know, but I don't think he has any ill intent or any anger. He's trying to throw anyone under the bus, when he's making comments about these players and responding to questions. But I think it's just that he's blunt. He's very matter of fact, straightforward. And I think that those kind of responses and remarks can be taken the wrong way, clearly. So I think he could definitely benefit from just navigating the press conferences a little differently. Even if that means just lying or not addressing things, like sometimes that's what's needed. I don't think he's doing anything bad, but I think that, maybe sometimes just discretion is the better part of valor, right? And I think that there's something to be said for that. He can say whatever he wants to the players behind closed doors, I think sometimes. And again, this isn't me accusing him of airing dirty laundry or throwing people under the bus. I just think there's a bit of discernment needed with the words he chooses. So all that being said, I don't consider Ten Hag to be a bully, and I never will. I don't think, maybe it's just because I'm old. Maybe I'm old school when it comes to things like this. But was Sir Alex a bully? We know there's a reason the term hair dryer treatment exists because of Sir Alex. Ollie, people say Ollie smiled all the time. He was a yes man. He was your best friend, right? He was a PE teacher. Do you remember Ollie on the touchline? I forget what the match was, but Jesse Lingard, come on and gave him away the ball a couple times, and Ollie, you could hear Ollie screaming on the, one more time and you're effing off. Like, Ollie could lay down the law. Van Gaal, like, he had no problem benching play. Van Gaal came in and basically just put Victor Valdez with the youth, the reserves. Mourinho came in and pretty much banished Bastian Schweinsteiger. And I'm not saying I agree with those things, but the players and the managers there's a level of power there, and yes, there needs to be a level of respect at the same time. But these guys, we wouldn't call them bullies. I mean, Mourinho maybe a little bit. Mourinho. I always said Mourinho kind of strikes me like a guy going to prison. Like, he just picks out the first, like, one person, and he's like, that guy, that's mine. I'm gonna I'm going to beat that guy up. I'm going to target that guy. He came in and did it with Luke Shaw like right away, and it was I just never Mourinho never rubbed me the right way, even when he was at Madrid or at Chelsea. I just didn't like his attitude, but I gave him a chance when he came to United, like I give any United manager a chance, which. And like I hope a lot of people will give Ten Hag a chance. We have a chance to win an FA Cup this season in his second season. This is a chance for Ten Hag to get to 3 cup finals in his first 2 years in charge of the club. He's already won a trophy, third place finish, 2 finals last year, great win percentage, great home record last year. This season, yeah, the wheels have fallen off. I'll be first to admit it. You know, Ten Hag has a lot to answer for. He has a lot to do. It's getting harder to defend him. Yeah, and if he gets sacked, I won't be surprised. It is what it is. It could go either way, but we'll see what happens. I think the players have been getting away with a lot well before Ten Hag arrived, as we've seen, and he's trying to change that. He's been trying to change it since day one. It could all be for naught if he's sacked, but I think that if there are leaders in that dressing room, if the new ownership comes in and has done their homework like I have today and points out a lot of the issues that have been happening, they will also carry on some of those standards and that culture shift that Ten Hag has been trying to implement. So we'll see. You know, it's they talk a lot and there's a lot of plans being made, but we're going to see what happens moving forward. So that's my take on it. I wouldn't call Ten Hag a bully. If you think, let me know if you think he's a bully, whether or not if you're Ten Hag out, whether you think I'm right and Ten Hag's doing a good job. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and don't forget to check me out on MUFC versus Everybody on Twitter. And I will see you tomorrow morning with another roundup of the news. Take it easy, guys. I'll talk to you later.